Ready? Sorry. Are we ready, everybody? Yes? Okay, let's start.
Mr. Hussain. Yeah,
Sorry.
Councillor Malik is going to be about 20 minutes late.
Okay, but we'll call it now to start. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Hussain. Right, are we streaming now?
Yes, Chair.
Right. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee. The agenda is quite compact, I would say, tonight. Members and officers in attendance in the room, please remember to switch microphones on when speaking and speak directly into the microphone and switch off when finished. Reporting officers joining via Teams, please switch cameras and microphones on when speaking and off when finished. Use the hands up icon on Teams to indicate a question or comment to the chair and I will invite you to speak. The meeting this evening will be live streamed and a recording of the meeting will be available on the Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Any exempt items private on the agenda, the Chair, I, will move the Local Government Act 1972 for the meeting to go into private and the live stream will be stopped. There may be a short delay before taking those items. Thank you. We now move on to apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence?
None, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, if we go to page 5, we've got the minutes of the meeting on the 3rd of December. I'll go through each page for accuracy. Right, so if we go page 5, page 6,
Yep.
page 7, page 8, page 9,
Yep.
page 10, and page 11. Are there any errors, anything we need to change, colleagues? No? For those that was in attendance on the 3rd of December, do we accept and agree that they're a true reflection of the meeting that took place?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. We've now moved to the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of December on page 12. We just go through them again for accuracy. Page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay. Are those in attendance at the meeting agree that this is a true and fair reflection of the meeting that took place on the 11th of December?
Yeah.
Thank you, colleagues. We now move to agenda item 3, disclosures of interest. Members are reminded that they must disclose both the existence and nature of any disclosable peculiar interest and any personal interest that they may have in any matters to be considered at the meeting, unless the interest is a sensitive interest, in which event they need not disclose the nature of the interest. A member with a disclosable peculiar interest must not further participate in any discussions of, vote on or take any executive steps in relation to the items of business. A member with a personal interest which a member of the public with knowledge of the relevant fact would reasonably regard as so significant that it is likely to prejudice the member's judgment of the public interest must similarly not participate in any discussions of, vote on or take any executive steps in relation to the items of business. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and personal interests are defined in the Council Code of Conduct for members and co-opted members. Are there any to disclose? No? Right. Section 106, item 4 of the local government items. Those items on the agenda affected by section 106 of the Local Government Act 1992 will be identified at the meeting. Any member so affected is reminded that they should disclose the fact and refrain from voting on those items. Item 7, are there any urgent business?
None, Chair.
Right. Thank you. Agenda item 6, references from committee and other bodies. Are there any?
Again, none, Chair.
Thank you. We're on to report. Item 7, internal audit plan update. And you're not last on the agenda this time. Yay!
Thank you, Chair.
Over to you, Kenshan.
That's great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So the Internal Audit Plan Update report provides the committee with an update in terms of the work that the Internal Audit team have carried out for the 9-month period up to the end of December, and to highlight any key internal control issues and weaknesses in governance and control issues. As at the time of writing this report and at Q3, 69% of the plan had been completed, so we are on target to complete the 90% of the plan by year end. Again, we've issued 51 final audit reports and certified 8 grant claims to confirm that the terms and conditions of the grant were met. Of these, 5 have been limited assurance opinions and 2 have been no assurance opinions, and out of these 7 reports, 6 updates have been previously provided to committee, and there is a further update from management in terms of the action which is being taken to implement these audit recommendations. There is, however, one new limited assurance which I would like to bring to the committee's attention. So this is in relation to the Assistive Technology Solutions audit review. The objective of this particular review was to provide assurance around the operations of the ATS service, which provides independent living technology to vulnerable adults. So this is, for example, providing pendants which can be pressed in emergencies, or having alarms such as smoke or carbon monoxide alarms. During our review, we identified that while there were several Excel spreadsheets in use to monitor the referrals through to installation of equipment and then subsequent monitoring of the arrangements, this was not considered to be efficient or effective. We identified that there was a duplication of input, there were delays in manually updating the spreadsheets, and there was only very limited monitoring and exception reporting which could be undertaken. So we provided a limited assurance because not having a single customer database, it doesn't efficiently provide that service with an end-to-end processing of those referrals, and it doesn't allow them to produce exception reports which would identify and alert management to any levels of clients at various stages of the process as well, and to highlight any issues and to take action as needed. So the recommendations have been agreed with the service, and that will feed into the transformation project that the service is currently undertaking at the moment to ensure it maintains to be a robust and modern service going forward. In terms of the follow-ups, so as at Q3, we are reporting 64% of the recommendations followed up have now been fully implemented. So this is a slight increase from the 56% that we reported at Q2. We expect these recommendations, which are fully implemented, to be further increased as at year end. All outstanding recommendations are being followed up and escalated, and all service directors and CLMT have been made aware of the recommendation which was proposed at committee at the last meeting, that if sufficient progress has not been made within 2 updates, the committee will request officers to attend committee to provide an explanation in terms of the reasons for the delays. So if I can take you back to the recommendation on page 31, the committee is recommended to receive the Internal Audit Update Report, which covers the period 1st of April to 31st of December 2024. I'm happy to take any questions on that report, Chair.
Thank you for the report and your update. Are there any questions on the report, colleagues? Yes, go on, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. You've answered one of my questions already, Kanchan, which is, are you satisfied with progress so far? And you've already said that we're where we should be, so I'm comfortable with that one. Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the appendix, really. I struggle a bit with Appendix C, I have to be honest, because some of these audits and outstanding areas are quite dated. So I struggle with understanding when those recommendations will be complete and finished, because the expected resolution date just gives us an update at the end of March is how I read it. So if you can put some clarity on that, I would welcome it. Thank you.
So you'll note from Appendix C onwards on page 51, we provided a RAG status on these, and a majority of them are amber on some of those in terms of the ones which we are following up and the ones which are in progress. So we do follow up on these on a quarterly basis with the team to identify the progress being made on these recommendations, and these have been escalated to the relevant managers and service directors, particularly the red RAG rating one you'll note on the BTS one, where we recommended that they implemented a job costing system. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that was delayed, and then subsequent action being taken by the service. They were relying on other areas to be able to kind of have that system implementation in place. Unfortunately, the latest one, which related to the housing IT system, unfortunately that's not progressed as planned, so the service are back to square one again. So they've tried everything that they could do to have implemented that particular recommendation, but they are relying on the compensating controls that they have in place to provide that job costing for the jobs that they do. So this was more in relation to providing that granular detail around that, so they can kind of assess the cost effectiveness in a more accurate way, really. So as they've done all that they can do, we kind of come to the conclusion there's no further action on that one, and we'll revisit the compensating controls as the next audit review that we do on BTS. Some of the other ones, again, you'll note from the procurement one, we have a new Procurement Act which has come into force, so that's implemented. So some of the recommendations now are dependent on the updates in relation to the Procurement Act, and taking those new considerations into account as well. You'll notice another one around, I think it was the mortuary costs one, so again, that's dependent on the BLURF and the arrangements we have in place with other local authorities to develop that mortuary plan, and again we're dependent on other third parties to develop that agreement as well. So there are reasons why some of these haven't progressed as they should have done, but we have escalated that. Also the requirement that if there isn't sufficient progress, they can be asked to attend committee to provide a further explanation on that as well.
Just follow up slightly, thank you. Thank you for that, Kanchan. I do appreciate that, and I'd probably ask again next meeting because I'll forget it again. I just see the old dates and it just worries me. The one I do want to highlight then is the Declaration of Interest, Gifts and Hospitality, which is a really quite old recommendation, and I understand that it's also on the external audit recommendations as well this year. So will that now gain some traction to be progressed?
So with that particular one, it's looking at the other aspects for declarations of interest. So it covers two aspects. So one of them is around the declarations which we have around procurement, which is quite well managed because the officers are required to complete a declaration around a procurement activity. So if there is a conflict, they would declare that. Gifts and hospitalities, again, there's regular returns which departments do produce, and they're signed off by the Chief Executive, I think on a 6-monthly basis, so they are reviewed on that basis. The kind of the outstanding ones is more in relation to having a single kind of record of those, so it's one-point access around those, and looking at declarations for senior officers as well, so we can have something similar, perhaps what we have for members around the different types of declarations, and also for declarations which are made when people first join their employment. So again, they're held in various places around that, so it's kind of having that single view of that. There was also another recommendation around having a system which, when we review a policy or accept a policy, again, that kind of documents the acceptance of that policy. So that's the other angle on that. And I believe the system requirements are being reviewed on that one to renew those requirements so we can have that in place again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, Chan, do you, for these reviews, do you categorise them at all in the, for the issues that are involved?
We do look for themes amongst those. So, you know, in terms of the kind of the similar issues that we've identified. So for example, we have identified issues to do with general kind of project governance and monitoring arrangements, which has led to kind of governance issues, I suppose, or spending, or overspending on certain projects around that. So we kind of highlighted that at the last, I think the July meeting, we kind of mentioned that to committee. Other areas that we've kind of picked up on, particularly on the long outstanding ones, are more to do with systems, really, in terms of how the service can improve the efficiency and effectiveness in terms of its processes. So we have raised quite a few recommendations around improving the systems around that. Unfortunately, that process does take some time to, by the time they kind of look at the options and if it's feasible for them to kind of go ahead with that system. So that does take time as well around that. So yes, we do look for themes amongst our findings.
Thank you. I think you've more or less answered my follow-up question in that you're talking about systems, and the question I was going to ask is, so for example, the ATS issue, that seems to be like a lack of awareness of the right system to use. Is that so? I think you mentioned that is one of the themes that you've picked up.
That's right. So with this one, again, it's reliance on the Excel spreadsheets, and they have so many different spreadsheets to kind of manage and monitor that's not effective in terms of doing that. So having one single view, one single customer database, which would do everything from end to end, that will certainly improve the efficiencies and effectiveness of that service. Thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? I just wanted to ask, with regards to the two where there's no unsatisfactory opinions, time's ticking on. So I would like that they've moved forward by the next time you do the report, and if not, it might be worthwhile those services coming and explaining to us what the issue is, why it can't move beyond that, because the housing one, it's February, and that was in May. And the transformation programme, that was in June, and we'll soon touch March. So 9 months. So do you want to come back on that, Kanshan, please? Thanks.
So in terms of the transformation programme, the update you notice in the last paragraph of that particular table, the service have confirmed that all recommendations have been implemented. So we're currently doing a follow-up review on that to see how embedded those processes are. So the physical follow-up is in progress on that, and we should have an update as part of the year-end report. Similarly with the statutory compliance review as well, again, management have confirmed that of the 7 recommendations, 6 are now fully implemented and 1 is partly. And again, we're concluding that particular physical follow-up review. So again, we'll be able to come back to the committee with independent assurance around how those recommendations have been embedded again within the service area.
So with the housing one, the issue with the asbestos and the IT,
The transformation. So with the, so we would have concluded the physical follow-ups by end of March on those ones.
Okay, so I didn't put my be clearer, that's what you're saying, where that fits, that drops, that bit. Okay, thank you very much. So if we go back to the beginning of the report, colleagues, the recommendation is that the committee is recommended to receive the internal audit plan update, which covers the period the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of December 2024. Is everybody in agreement with the recommendation to accept that and note? Yeah? Okay. I have been reminded when I did the training course at the LGA, we can always change the recommendations. As Audit Committee, yeah, just remember empowering my colleagues. Thank you. Now move to agenda item 8, Corporate Risk Update Report, page 59. Who's going to do that? Okay, over to you, Kanshan.
Thank you, Chair. So this particular report considers the findings from the World Economic Forum on the current and emerging global risks and how these align with the risks currently reported within the Corporate Risk Register. So the results from the survey, they highlight an increasingly fractured global landscape with escalating geopolitical, environmental, societal and technological challenges which threaten stability and progress. So the top 5 global risks have been compared and linked to the risks currently reported within the Corporate Risk Register, and these are detailed at paragraph 8 of the report within the table. The key highlights from the World Economic Forum report, they include that the impact of the cost of living crisis since 2022 has contributed to inequality, becoming the top interconnected risk this year, with economic downturn, inflation and debt selected among the top causes by respondents. Environmental risks, in particular extreme weather events, they dominate the risk landscape in all 3 time frames. So that's the current time frame, the short-term time frame and the long-term time frame as well, which is up to 10 years. The technological risks in relation to misinformation and disinformation, that's considered to be a high area of concern for 2025 and seen as the most severe global risk emerging within the next 2 years. And the adverse outcomes of AI technologies, that's a risk that increases most in the long term when compared to the short term. So there's an update, a link to the actual report there, and there's a further appendix which provides details on the control measure updates, which we've linked to the Corporate Risk Register as well. Page 62, paragraph 11, the second half of the report focuses on the updated Corporate Risk Register. So currently there are 39 risks on the Corporate Risk Register, and the scores have remained the same for 38 risks, but reduced for 1 risk. So this is in relation to failure to improve the decline and look of the town centre. This particular risk has been reduced from a high to a medium high. This is because there's significant work underway and good progress is being made on the town centre, and there's several examples listed in the table in terms of the work which is in progress. In terms of high priority risks, there are currently 2 high priority risks on the Corporate Risk Register, and both are budget related, and there's a control measure update within the table as well, which provides an update in terms of the controls in place. If I could take the committee back to the recommendations of the report on page 59, it's to consider the findings from the World Economic Forum on the current and emerging global risks and how these align with the risks currently reported within the Corporate Risk Register. And the second part of that is to review the updated Corporate Risk Register. I'm happy to take any questions on that report, Chair.
Any questions? Councillor Hussain?
Yeah. In terms of the risk in temporary accommodation, you know, that is a major thing in now and is likely to increase with, you know, cost of living and now the energy prices. And of course, one of the important factors is Donald Trump. Is that taken into account? What I mean is, you know, because that has an impact on economically around the world. I mean, today, in one stroke, he's managed to wipe off all the overseas aid.
I can only comment on the control measures update that I received from the risk owners, I'm afraid, on that particular one. You know, in terms of the update that the risk owners provided, they've kind of focused around the demand in terms of the pressures on the temporary accommodation and the actions they're taking in terms of the monitoring. So I'm sorry, I'm only able to answer in respect of those, but I'll hand over to Dev.
So housing is the biggest priority for the council, and last night the budget was approved, so we are setting aside between this year and next year 40 million to deal with the temporary accommodation, and then 10 million more to deal with, like, in terms of pressure in adult social care and children, so provide home, so that at least some of the things we can provide in-house. So we've already created one, and then we're planning, because DFE is helping with some of the funding. So, but housing is a big challenge for not for this council, but across, yeah. So we just have to do our best and try to work more closely with the providers, prevention and early sort of intervention in order to make sure people stay. But hopefully with potentially interest rate might start to come down and inflation might ease, and that might reduce the pressure on the housing market. But that's quite a risk in the register, which we have to keep a close eye on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I suggest for the next time, when will this come back to us again? Then I'll take the question, the point I want to make.
So the next update will be in July.
So in July, can we have LBC 008585 updated with regards to the football club? We'll know whether they're relegated or not, and therefore whether the plans for Power Court is going to happen or not. We need to know that one. And if they get relegated, I cannot, not meaning to upset anybody, I cannot see how the money is going to translate that takes place. And then with regards to, I think we've missed something here, and it's called Luton Station. It's dilapidated, and it needs to be here because it is a major risk in our regenerating the town. And the same way we've got what other partners are doing, like Culture Trust and Hat Factory, we need to put Network Rail in here as a partner who's not delivered on a promise for that station for how many years, and it has got worse. And I just see it as a major, it's a gateway to the town. So it needs to be in there, and then everybody who needs to have the conversation with Network Rail can go and ask the question what they need to. I'm not saying they haven't been doing it, but that is not edifying, as my mum would say, present for people coming to see my town for the first time. So can we put that in the risk register, please? And then with regards to like the art installation, the new public art installation, I think it would be useful to have a timeline, because the bit that's been done on the back of the mall, or the Arndale, the mall, the Point, it's been there, that was done just as we came out of the pandemic, that artwork, so it's now 3 years on. What's the timeline for the other space? I think some timeline in here would be good. Yes, we need to identify the risks in our town as well, as we're key partners. So that's what I'm trying to do. Football is a risk. Power Court might not happen, which affects the plan of the town and the station. And it's not down to us, either two of those, to kick the ball and win, or to find the money and refurb and redevelop that station.
I'm sure they will.
So thank you. Can we add that in, Kanshan, please?
Yes, I'll certainly raise that with the risk owner and provide an update at the next meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Skeppelhorn.
Thank you, Chair. Not questions, a couple of comments. Follow up one on yours on the railway station. As I travel to St Albans to go to the office two days a week, the complete difference to what they've done at St Albans station, with actually 2 new bridges and walkways plus lifts, compared to what Luton has, it really is time to name and shame Network Rail publicly by this authority for its lack of work on a railway station that's been getting steadily worse for the last 20 years. The other comment I would like to make is, while the council should take a note of global geopolitical situations. There is very little as an authority that it can do. So it just probably needs to be keeping an eye on and liaising with the government as to what actions they're going to take to things that happen, because refugees, for a start, will be a big issue if the conflict in the Ukraine escalates beyond where it is now. As a town, we are almost certainly going to be on the front line of refugees, because we've got an airport and we've got the railway station, such as it is, and road transport. But there isn't a huge amount as a single authority that we can do. But we need to be aware of what's going on and who we contact to get support to cover that.
Thank you, Councillor Skeppelhorn. With regards to the difference, not even St Albans, but Harpenden Station to us. But to me, it's about, we're talking about risk, and us moving forwards about risk. So that's what I'm, Councillor Hussain, I'll come in, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say here, in us succeeding that. And the point about Ukraine and everything, we just got to be mindful of, Councillor Hussain has made the point about wider geopolitics that is playing out, because there's the saying that fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So that's what we're just trying to do. I think that's only right for us to identify the risk here. Councillor Hussain, do you want to come in?
Just agreeing what you're saying, because it will have an impact on the national government. If it has an impact on the national, we're not likely to be getting any support from the national government. And, you know, all these services are very much dependent on the national government, particularly the statutory services. If there is a geopolitical, and Donald Trump is not a joke, we can laugh about it, but he does make, in one particular action, it has a huge impact in the whole of European economies. You know, so I think that needs to be, we can't do very much, but we need to be prepared as a very serious risk, because cost of borrowing has gone up by simply some of the things that happen particularly in the British economy. So it is huge risk for us, really, thinking of all the overspending, homelessness, adult social care, children's services, SEND. Every one of them is a statutory service. We can't say no to those people when they turn up at our door. We have to protect the vulnerable people. And for that, we need to be prepared for all those risks.
I just would add to Councillor Hussain's point, with the geopolitics, we've got to look at our contracts. We've got to look at who owns what company, what's going on in America, and how it's going to come back here. It's not just it's also contracts, everything else, and it's moving at a fast pace, because people have made decisions in a blink. That's effect there. That's going to have ripples. So there's multi-layers to what's going on over in the US. And it's not just Ukraine. There are other things we have to be looking at now. So thank you, Councillor Hussain, for raising the points. And thank you all for your contribution. But we don't live in an island totally unconnected. So we have to have these risk discussions. Thank you all. So if we go to the front of the report, the committee is recommended to 1, consider the finding from the World Economic Forum on current and emerging global risks and how these align with the risks currently reported within the risk register, which we've done, and review the updated corporate risk register. So we'll be having this conversation in the summer again and see how much more has changed. I'm sure there will be more. Thank you, colleagues. So we've moved on to now agenda item 9, internal audit strategy, charter and annual audit plan. Over to you, Kanchan.
Thank you, Chair. So this particular report provides an overview of the new global internal audit standards, the SIPFA application note and the code of practice for the governance of internal audit in UK local government. These are standards which all of the public sector internal audit functions will have to follow from the 1st of April 2025. So the Global Internal Audit Standards, they are currently arranged under 5 domains, and the report provides an update in terms of those particular domains. The ones which will be applicable to the committee would be 2 particular domains. So this is domain 1, which sets out the purpose of internal auditing, and domain 3, which sets out the governing the internal audit function. So this is where the committee can support the internal audit function to ensure that we have appropriate governance arrangements in place to enable internal audit to be effective. It also outlines a requirement for the head of internal audit to work closely with the committee to establish the internal audit function, position it independently, and to oversee its performance. So these are the quarterly update reports and the year-end report that we provide to committee. The domain also outlines senior management's responsibilities that support the Audit and Governance Committee and promote strong governance of the internal audit function. There are 52 standards which detail the requirements that internal audit have to follow, and we're working through a self-assessment to address any gaps and to change any working practices from the 1st of April, so we kind of comply with those standards. One of the key requirements for the internal audit function is to have an internal audit charter and a strategy. So this is detailed within Appendix 1, so this is page 101 within the pack. And the charter on page 113, this complies with the model GIS, I should call it the standards charter for the public sector. So it outlines all of the key aspects which internal audit are required to follow. It sets out the committee's roles and responsibilities, internal audit having access to documents and personnel, and how internal audit will conduct its work. One of the key aspects to this is the internal audit mandate. So this is the authority that internal audit have under the statutory backing through the regulations. So this is the Accounts and Audit Regulations and the Local Government Act. So there's further details within that appendix. In terms of reporting lines, so that the Head of Internal Audit reports functionally to the Audit and Governance Committee and administratively to the Section 151 officer and the Chief Executive. The strategy at Appendix 1, it also sets out the context for the provision of internal audit, so it explains the risk-based approach that we've used to devise the internal audit plan for 25-26. And these areas, they've been identified and prioritised based on the Council's own risk assessment processes. So this is a review of the risk registers and also consultation with service directors as well. The corporate risks have also been assurance mapped, the high priority ones in particular, to identify any key areas of risk and audit work for 25-26. We've also undertaken horizon scanning as well to consider any emerging risks and opportunities. So the delivery of the plan, that's supported through the internal audit charter and with the strategy, and the committee will receive regular updates on a quarterly basis to demonstrate the work which is being undertaken and to provide the committee with that independent assurance on the Council's control environment. So if I can take you back to the recommendation on page 95, to note the changes arising from the new global internal audit standards, the SIPFA application note and code of practice, which will be effective from the 1st of April 2025, and to consider and approve the internal audit strategy, charter and annual audit plan for 25-26. So again, I'm happy to take any questions on that report, Chair.
Are there any questions, Helen? And then Councillor Skeppelhorn, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Kanchan. I was pleased to see the increase in the key financial systems and the increase in days for that. But I wondered, I couldn't see it in the appendix, but I was rather hoping to see that there would be some focus on some of the processes to improve the statement of accounts completion. I know a lot of work has gone into it, but it'd be really helpful to have that independent audit assurance about the improvement plan, the implementation plan, and how that's working through the year. So I was disappointed it wasn't in the appendix, but I was pleased with the extra finance days.
Sorry, if I could just, in terms of the key financial system reviews, we will be having a look at the reconciliation processes around that, and that kind of feeds in through to the accounts as well in terms of the financial data around that. We also have an annual review of the corporate governance review as well. So again, a part of that would be looking at external recommendations and the again, we'll sample test to see what action's being undertaken around that particular area as well. So they will be kind of covered, I suppose, in different areas rather than a single audit, if you like, of that particular area. But I don't know if the external auditors wanted to come in on the action plan, because I assume they'll be following up on those actions as well as part of that. So you'll probably go through that as part of the next report in terms of the follow-up action that they will be undertaking in terms of those recommendations.
Thank you. And I appreciate that, and I do understand that it would come from a number of different places. I'm just conscious that back in October we agreed that there would be an improvement plan on the accounts, and it would come through to the audit committee, and I think I would have been hoping that we would get some internal audit assurance on progress against that improvement plan. Would have been what I would have been hoping for.
Yeah, so thanks very much, because I did print a copy of that, so because I'm quite aware of that, so it was on the 9th of October. So what I would say is the challenge this year was quite great. We had to finalize 6 years accounts, and then we had to work with, in terms of value for money and everything. So there has been lessons learned, and today's culmination of all the things which we've done. So there's a lot of recommendation which is coming from our external auditors as well. So all these you will see a lot of action point which has got sort of an action plan there. What are the things, how we're going to address? And then you're absolutely right, the plan we already, lessons learned working, as I said, the 24-25 audit has already started. And in my report, I will touch on those because I did instigate a detailed review in July time because there was issues there. So I will touch on those in my report. You will see what things, Property Collection Fund expert, look at reconciliation, look at a lot of the account itself, having the group accounts early, and I've discussed earlier, we've got a detailed timetable to work with the subsidiary companies to produce their valuation by mid of May. So you're absolutely right. Wanted to have everything plus an external assurance from our auditors, and then that will form the basis of that plan. Yeah, but we've already lessons learned. You will see I'll cover in my report. We've already put those in place, and as mentioned earlier, our target is to get the statement of accounts done by end of May. And in terms of capacity, we've got all the temporary resources we're still keeping, and SIPA is doing an overall review of our structure because without the capacity is very difficult to especially on technical. So I'll touch on those later. I mean, absolutely, you will see in the risk register, there is a risk about statement of accounts, the backstop and everything. So it has been. So all these I will cover, but you're absolutely right, then this will feed into how we deliver the 24-25.
It is, thank you for that. It is a subject I will come back to because I think that is how we as an Audit and Governance Committee can get the assurance. I appreciate we'll have the external auditors report, and I've read your report, and there's quite a lot of updates in there. But there's a lot of things to pull together, as you say, after 6 years on the accounts. We don't want it to be too many more years, and as a member of this committee, I would find it helpful to have that plan come to us so we can have that assurance of how things are progressing on a regular basis. And I would find it helpful to have had the internal audits, independent assurance on how that is progressing through the year. I appreciate it'll be too soon for 24-25, but I would appreciate it for the 25-26 set of accounts.
I think I would say my plan, as I've explained earlier, is to bring things back on track for 24-25. So that's my guidance to my team now, is to make sure, and our external auditors will talk about the backstop and the restate, but in terms of the account itself, I would like 24-25 to be completed within the deadline by end of May and brought to the audit committee with the timeliness, accuracy, robustness, and that's how I'm setting the team. Because you will see in our report, we've come a long way, yeah? We've come a long way, but one of the things, if you ask me what are the risks, the biggest risk you will see later, we'll discuss capacity, yeah? And the capacity in terms of recruiting technical people, is that the risk? So that as well, we're running a campaign to recruit key people, and especially one of the job which is vacant right now is the chief accountant. Although we run a campaign for 3 months with the top agency in the city, plus our own internal HR department running a campaign over the last 3 months, we are still struggling, yeah? So the plan will be very much a plan with everything which we've learned, but to resource that properly, and SIPFA is doing a review about our structure. So that is another key foundation of building and getting that. But my target with my team now is end of May, we need to have everything done with the group and everything. So that's I'm saying here, it can be, that's my aim to get it done. And I have to say my colleagues here, our auditors, they've already started 24-25. There's email already, yeah, so we've already started a couple of weeks ago. So all aiming toward that, and yeah, so 25-26, fine. I would like 24-25 to get back to the normal, bringing a report and everything. So that's my aim to the audit committee, and that's how my aim is to deliver that. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't get me wrong, I would like 24-25 on time, absolutely, but it's also about it being to the required standard and with the required evidence to support that as well. So that's where the improvement plan comes in, not just about hitting the timescale, but also about doing it to the required standard, so we have a much thinner audit report to read next time.
And that's when I say it is timely, accurate, robust. Yeah, that's the thing is, that's my aim is, not to bring a report which is not of good quality, but right now if you say over and above our current structure, I've got 2 qualified accountants on top. And my structure right now, I've got a closure accountant. He's very good, but he just started, so I'm supporting him with 2 additional qualified experienced closure accountant. So, but that has to be sustainable going forward. So I'll be discussing the structure, what the structure will put in place. And I've secured the service of a collection fund accountant who is an expert, and every month she's going to do that. So I'm putting everything in place, and towards that is the quality and the timeliness, the accuracy and robustness. Yeah, and myself coming from an audit background, that is my aim. And you will see when we'll be presenting the next report, and you will see the comments when I started the review in July. Since July to November, December, there has been a significant improvement, and we're turning things around. So that shows the direction of travel, and we have to keep the momentum, and that's what is important. And my team is already in 24-25, so there's no letting off here. 23-24 done, 24-25, the team is absolutely. So if there's any risk, I will keep the audit committee updated, but right now the team is very much, the momentum is still there to do that. And that's my aim to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just come in and everybody should have seen a copy or received a copy, including the independent of our response to the audit reform. And hopefully by the time summer comes, I mean, I don't know if Grant Thornton knows anymore since we've done our submissions with regards to that, but hopefully now the consultation is closed. The government would have heard the response of the sector and stating some of the stuff we need for them to do to reduce the reporting. That was one thing I got very clear by doing the LGA training, which you should have had the presentations. If you haven't, I'll pick it up now. But we had a presentation at the training course by the chief exec for PSSA, and it was clear from the day plus training the onerous responsibilities and the reporting that's required for local government compared to other parts of the public sector. We will hopefully know, maybe, if the government is going to reduce all that stream of paperwork and therefore the level of specialism that's required for accountants and external auditors to have in dealing with our books. So, but I'm hoping we hear something in this summer, late summer, maybe touching to September, because they got recess. But we need to hear something from the government this year so that we can plan our way forward. So we've done our bit. I've made sure Luton has taken part, the Eastern region has taken part, and we'll see what the government, but hopefully some of these things, if they have listened and do the work with SITFA, the paperwork and the level of specialism and some of the assumptions that have had to be done on like fixed asset, myself and Dev had conversations. I didn't know that it wasn't until 1994 that all these assets that we own, it was even put onto the balance sheet. So I just trained that every asset was put on the balance sheet. So where do you start off on valuation? I was totally not aware, because other parts of the public sector, like transport, everything is valued on the balance sheet. So I just thought I would come in, and let's just remember, we do our bit, Dev does his bit, staff do, but government needs to do their bit as well. And I hope we get some clarity soon. I'm praying. Well, I'm not praying too much because that won't really help the go. But you understand what I mean, yeah? Thank you on that bit. Does anybody want to come in on that? Yeah, go on.
Thank you. Oh, now I've forgotten. Okay, sorry. In the section of the head of internal audit roles and responsibilities, the first paragraph talks about ethics and professionalism. So that emphasis on that ethics is that a new thing? Is that what?
So that's always been in place for internal auditors. So it's the ethics that we comply with as part of, so being a certified internal auditor, there's certain ethics as part of that profession that I need to adhere to, but all internal auditors need to adhere to, it's the objectivity, the integrity, the confidentiality, so kind of maintaining all of that. In addition to that, it'll be the the public principles as well around that, so making sure we adhere to that in our day-to-day work as well.
Okay, so are you talking about your department, or are you, so it seems, so you're not responsible for policing the ethics of the council as a whole?
No, this particular one is specifically to the internal audit team. So if we do have conflicts of interest in any particular work we're doing, we have a standard declaration that we make on an annual basis, and as part of that we would declare that we'd kind of adhere to the standards and maintain that professionalism and adhere to the ethics. In terms of the ethics that you mentioned, in terms of the council, that does form part of the governance review in terms of the ethics and culture. So we can provide independent assurance in terms of through the audit work that we've undertaken in that particular audit in terms of how those arrangements are working, and that will build up in various forms. So it could be how we deal with complaints, for example, and other aspects around that.
Thank you. Talking about the independence of your position from the S151 officer, so the paragraph on page 115 says that the head of internal audit will confirm to us at least annually the organisational independence of the internal audit function. It doesn't go into too much detail about how you would do that.
So in terms of the committee, so I would report to you on a quarterly basis in terms of the providing you with the independent assurance around the control of the council. If there are any significant concerns, again, I would raise this at the committee, and with your support, we could see what else we can do to kind of address those particular concerns or those issues. In terms of reporting to the Section 115 officer and the Chief Executive, that's more on an administrative basis. So it's the day-to-day operations, for example, and reported to Dev as well if there's any concerns in the audit work, as his role as Section 151 officer as well. So I'd report those concerns to Dev and to Robin as the Chief Executive as well. So it's a dual purpose really to have that independent positioning. So if there is something that's significant, I can come directly to the committee and to the chair with those concerns without having to go through another route.
Thank you. It's just that I think it was a SIPFA training on the internal audit function. It came up a number of times that with some councils that independence is an issue, but I mean obviously you both believe and assume that it's not an issue for ourselves.
No, it's not an issue here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any more questions? No? Right, so if we can go to page 95, colleagues. The recommendation is the committee is recommended to 1. Note the changes arising from the new global internal audit standards, SIPFA application note and code of practice for the governance of internal audit in the UK local government, which will be effective from the 1st of April 2025, and 2. Consider and approve the revised internal audit strategy, charter and annual audit plan for 2025-26. So noted and agreed? Yeah. Thank you, colleagues. We now move on to agenda item 10. So before I say anything, our internal audit, you don't have to stay. You could leave early if you need to, so but thank you for always for your forbearance with us, you being last on the agenda and things like that. So I just wanted to acknowledge your patience, so thank you, yeah? And if you need to go and you're going to seize the opportunity, it's okay. Thank you. Can we, colleagues, if we move to item 10 on page 143. Thank you, and that is over to our auditors. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll do a brief intro, then hand over to my colleague Jason, who did most of the work, and we'll take you through the detailed report. So this is our value for money report in old language, or interim auditor's annual report for the year ended 31st of March 2024. It's slated as interim because effectively it's open until the day we sign the accounts opinion, which we'll touch on in the next item. I've accepted it as a fair body of work. I hope members will appreciate that, and I'd like to place on record on behalf of Jason and the VFM colleagues the thanks to all the finance team and other colleagues within the council who spent lots of time helping us get this detailed understanding for you. Hopefully it's a fairly comprehensive summary of where things are, and I think hopefully we'll look to build on it in years to come. That's all I'll say at that point. I'll pass over to Jason to talk you through the report.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I'll take the main report as read, but I'll just take you through some key areas of the report, if that's okay. So we assess the value for money arrangements under the National Audit Office Code of Audit Practice, and that requires us to look at 3 distinct areas of council arrangements. Firstly, it's financial sustainability, effectively how the council manages its resources within short to medium term. Then we look at the governance arrangements in place at the council, clearly how you make decisions, how you manage risk, how you manage your control environment. And then we look at how you secure economy, efficiency and effectiveness in the use of your resources, how you monitor performance, how you work with others across the system, and how you procure things. And so, as Matt's alluded, the report is very detailed. We've interviewed a wide range of council officers. And the Code of Audit Practice asks us to really assess arrangements and make recommendations. And there are layers and levels of recommendations. The highest being statutory recommendations, where we find a significant weakness and we believe there is a reason to issue statutory recommendations. We have not made any statutory recommendations in this report. The second layer, more common and fairly prevalent within the system at the moment due to the pressures of the sector, are key recommendations. And in this report, we make two key recommendations. The committee has already spoken in respect of the first recommendation, which is around finance team capacity and resources. Clearly, the council has complex arrangements. The council is taking steps to resolve its capacity issues within the finance area. But in the report, we talk about the council's efforts, and we really set out the significance of this. The council has responded to this quite clearly and transparently communicated to us what they're doing about the issue. Clearly, SIPFA are supporting the council in resolving this issue, but there is pressure in the sector to recruit specialists within finance teams, and we do recognise that. But we've been provided with assurances of what is happening. The second key recommendation is around prior year auditors' findings and a requirement for the council to respond to that in an appropriate way in respect of legislation, and the council have confirmed they are doing that, and there'll be a full council meeting on the 18th of March. Other than that, we have made a range of improvement recommendations in all three of the sections. These are best practice recommendations, and the council have accepted all of those. So that is our summary, and I'm happy to take any questions with my director Matt in terms of the report. But again, I'd like to thank the council section 151 officer and the support is being provided. Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you that we've got this in a timely manner after the past. So that's number one. Have my colleagues got any questions on this report? Helen, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm also delighted to have it in a timely way, and I do appreciate that, so thank you very much. And I thought the recommendations were clear. It might be for me to ask a question of Dev in a minute, which was about the timescales. I'm really pleased to see that quite a lot of them have been done, and I'm assuming that you're happy with the responses that you've had from management on them as well. So my question to you is, are you, for those that haven't been done, are you content with the timescales for the others? I think there's quite a lot of them in September or December. I totally understand why, because of the summer period with the accounts and getting quite a lot of work done. But some of those seem quite far for me. And we spoke just before the meeting, Dev, about the IR number 7, the specialist training for audit and governance members. And I feel December 25 is too late for that. And I would be hoping that we would have that in plenty of time, just after the 24-25 draft account. So a bit of a question to both of you, sorry, but auditors, are you happy with the dates that have been provided? And Dev, I know you're going to come in on what we spoke about before.
If I can, Chair, I think one of the recommendations which external does has made is capacity. So we have to take this into account. Right now, if you look at, I've got 5 key sort of reporting to me directly in my team, and out of this, I've got the chief accountant role, which is vacant, and I've got the finance business partner who's been offered as the service director housing. So 40% of that capacity is temporary staff. I'm blessed to have those agency staff who is continuing. So capacity is as Howard does mention, and recruiting to those posts. So most of these recommendations you will see we've put September. So September is to get it resolved, get it done. And as you quite rightly said, this will coincide with when the account is coming to June. And then the auditors have already started the audit. So we'll be working closely with our auditors. The one which is about the training, I have to look at that, but absolutely right. December is too far down the line. And what we are doing here is, I think in one of the recommendations, it says we'll coincide this with the municipal year, because that's where you get a audit committee and members. So that is around May time. But as I said earlier, if the audit committee and the members will be appointed May, June, I will bring a training program even earlier. Yeah. So my aim is to coincide that training program, especially like valuation, airport valuation, infrastructure asset. Those are very technical things. So I'll bring that training program even earlier. I would do it probably around sort of May time. So when the accounts come to the June committee, members already train. Yeah. So, and the June accounts, when you are going to present, it will be a comprehensive presentation taking you through every aspect of that. And the only reason why, because I've going to sort of secure those staff, the agency staff, which they are absolutely great, very work with us, work with the external auditors. So continuity is one big thing. So hopefully I will keep them until end of July, because that's what you got the accounts. And yeah, so that's my plan here. And having that continuity, having then, and Kanchan we've discussed as well, we'll have a comprehensive training program, not only on the accounts, but things like treasury management, things like risk. So we'll do that again, because treasury is quite a big area. So that program will put it sooner rather than later. But I fully agree with you. I don't know when I'm writing why I put December, so I will raise that. But one of the things you will see, I put municipal year, so the municipal year is around May time. Yeah, so that's my aim here, Chair. Thank you.
Can come in on the training, Dev. Quite often the training is a briefing, it's 1 hour. And I don't know if it's effective enough. And I know we're all busy, but I really do think it's only in local government that I know of training being a briefing that is 1 hour, to be quite honest. I don't know anywhere else where it's 1 hour and then, you know, so I think that needs to be considered, if you don't mind me saying on that one. So, did Councillor Underwood, you had your hand up with a question?
Yes, the question has already been asked, but I'm sure, I'm sure I've seen that it was scheduled for May after the annual council somewhere else, but I can't be sure of that.
I'm just reading that here, Chair. To be honest, probably we'll have to, I think when I put December, I don't know why it went December, but when you're talking about discharging in terms of subsidiary companies as well, we'll do that by May time. Yeah, it's absolutely critical that we do it by May time, because subsidiary companies is a key component of the group accounts, and we do provide a training on all aspects. But I've done it in the past, but subsidiary companies, yeah. So I would say, if the chair agrees, and if the external auditors are comfortable because interim, I'll put it sort of May, June time. Yeah, I'm quite happy. December is far too long. Yeah, why it went December, I don't know. So just, I'm quite happy to put it May. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, I'm in agreement. My question, go on, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible to look for any other sources of training that members, if they have the time, can do in their own time? So, I mean, do the LGA or CITFA provide this sort of training?
Ask officers to look into
So,
this.
yeah, so we did discuss, because I think our auditors and committee did mention about training, so I have already discussed with the chief exec. So we've got the training budget this year, so we are going to carry forward part of that training budget, which anyway has not been spent. So we'll agree to, I don't know the quantum, but we carry forward, and that will be ring fence for training. Yeah. And if there are a specific bespoke training by LGA, it's not easy to get training by external, but there's some bespoke, And if we have to bring external trainers, we'll bring them. But one of the things our chair said is 1 hour is just, when you're talking about valuation and the accounts is, yeah. So I will just say to members, probably it will be sort of 3 hours, not less, yeah. And when we are going to some of them, we might pay external providers to come and deliver those training. So I would give you sufficient notice because May is around the corner, but just make sure I'll give you enough date for you to book those things. Yeah. So I'll be working with our internal audit, and if external auditors can say they've here organization who's given some bespoke training, which is very good, we'll just get those done. Yeah. But absolutely, end of May, you will have all the comprehensive training.
Thanks for that, Dev. I do remember we got in a firm when we were going to do the borrowing. You remember we set up the task and finish group with regards to borrowing the debentures for the DART, and I think the members at the time that attended that did find it useful, but it was more than an hour, the training, so we do need to bear that in mind.
So absolutely right. When we've got big decisions like the DART, Central Park Access Road, the stage, what we do, we put a task and finish group and have sort of 3 or 4 hours training by the external section 151. And the reason I do that, because I'm signing off that debenture for 225 million, and I don't want to give members a training. So when we set a task and finish group, I bring an external experienced section 151 officer to train those members so that they can challenge me as a section officer and challenge critical challenge friend officers. So there's 3 or 4 projects we've done, that big projects. So we do invest quite a lot of training, but I have to say, because we have been so busy, maybe audit committee hasn't had that training we did deserve, but we are going to put that in place. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Can the external auditors coming back, I think Helen's point and Councillor Underwood, before I ask a subsequent question.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'll take Helen's questions first. I mean, I think in broad terms, I think we're reasonably comfortable with those timeframes. I mean, I think we're, I guess, being fair to management in terms of, when the reports come out and, giving 6 months to resolve those. I mean, I think we've discussed the point on training, absolutely, included earlier in the cycle. That is, I will put my name in the hat on that. We can do sessions. We can join up with Dev alongside that if needed. As part of that, I'm more than happy to come along and explain, I guess what we look for when we're looking at Jeff's accounts and those kind of things. So happy to be part of that training as we go.
Thank you. One of the things I sort of picked up in the report, but I didn't underline it at the time, and it also links into the training I'd done at the LGA, was about management accounts during the year coming to audit committees. We're not unique that they don't, but I do believe we need to now address it given the times we're in. If we're talking about economy, efficiency and effectiveness, we need to think about, I know it doesn't sit currently with us, it goes through the exec, it goes to the finance review group, but economy, efficiency and effectiveness, and if we're going to sign things off, we need to think about how do we address that the budget gets signed off and then things don't come to us now until this, and really we're looking at our internal controls to make sure they deliver the efficiency and the effectiveness. The discussion at the training was, should you not be looking, question marks, about how you do during the year, because you're leaving it too late to go and do any redirections. So I put that before you now openly to my colleagues, and given the times we live in, how things can just change in more than don't even land the coin, I think it's something we're going to. So I don't know if Matt and the external auditors want to talk to, and I don't mean to bounce people, but my job is to protect the taxpayers' money at the end of the day. So do you want to come in? Sorry, Hussein.
Any training that members wish to have, there's this budget that members' development has. Clyde Mead sits on it, myself and other colleagues. We can get an external or internal, whatever, get the money to do that training, and we can use that. If members wish to do that, do an email to Anne Loeffler, and that training will be arranged for you. Can't send you to the LGA, it's not that much money, only one person or two can go. So those that do go to there should really share the knowledge with the rest of us, but unfortunately, those that do go do not, in a group of all councillors, give their experience what they learn. And that would be perhaps one of the things that we can do that through all the councillors rather than a specific political group. So that training is available if any member wish to do that. But locally, not to Warrakan here.
So I'll pick it up, but I'm more than happy to train. But I'll just share in the discussions, given the time we're in, and we need to think about how we resolve it. There's no point that question being asked more than once and we don't resolve it about the year that we walk. Matt, external auditors, you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting reflection, I suppose, if I was to compare, I guess, the two strands of my work, which is local government and NHS, and it's... So I think your position is common with the sector, but it's almost in parallel opposite to NHS. So if I sit in an NHS's audit committee, they will have the quarterly finance updates come through that forum so that the committee members do see it. You know, and I think it kind of makes sense, probably as the LGA was there, ultimately you're signing off the accounts and those kind of things, but you don't see it from start to finish. So I can certainly see their argument for it. It's not something the sector does particularly well, is all I would say. I think I probably, you know, the amount of budget papers I see at audit committees is low, at least. So you're not on your own on it, but I can certainly see the argument for it. I think just worth having a look at the council's constitution, what goes where, and make sure you're not repeating yourself and the reporting is at the right level. But I can certainly see an argument for some high-level reporting at an audit committee, perhaps on the back of the finance committee, to say this is where things are, and allow you to talk things through, I guess, before it gets to the end of the year. So certainly something I would support.
Matt, do you feel there would be added value in our time as a committee, because it's about the value to the taxpayer? Do you think there would be added value for us to pursue that? I don't want to ruffle any feathers, potentially, but I'm asking as you're the professional, you're external auditors, will it add value to when we move forward in doing value for money and you're looking at the situation of our finance? Will it help with the improving economy, efficiency and effective bit of that? That's what I'm trying to understand, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, and I guess at risk of pushing more work on opposite, I think that, I mean, I certainly think there could be an angle. I think for me, it's about finding the right level of, I guess, information that's giving you something that you can find useful, and I guess is not repeating what the finance committee is doing. I think if you can find that forum, and probably something to work with Dev on, then I think there's certainly an angle for that. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that.
Chair, yes, we can do that, absolutely, as Matt said. And the angle we can bring it, just ideas, is because the resilience, financial resilience and the budget is already a risk. So in terms of risk register, you can say, but what are the mitigation plan and how your mitigation plan is working, and that the management account will provide that. The single angle which we do is every 6 months we have officers complete a statement of governance. So we ask them about controls, about issues, about best value. So that as well, we get it 6 monthly. So putting the risk and the governance, we can combine those and bring a very brief paper, not going 30 pages of volatile budget and everything, but just say what the bigger picture is telling. So we can absolutely do that under those two areas. Absolutely, we can do that.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we need to add that to the recommendation. Sorry, I just done that. I just bounced everybody. But I just want things to be better for us. That's what I'm just trying to do. Is there any more questions of the external auditors with regards to the report? Dev, did you have anything you want to come in on?
If I can take this opportunity, Chair, just to thank my colleagues. GT has done absolutely marvelous job. I have to say, when I got that report, I thought I will be spending sort of days and days. No, I went through that report. There is not many things which we found in that report which we were not aware of when it did agree. All the recommendations are agreed, and the chief exec and myself, we've agreed it within hours. I was a bit too in a rush to put the deadline, so I missed December, and I put December rather than around May, June. But I have to say, I did personally send an email to Matt and the team here, and to say that value for money, it's for a long time I have seen such a comprehensive report. So that gave me the reassurance that our external auditors has looked at it, has scrutinized, has met his officers, and we agreed all the recommendations. There's not a single recommendation we change or no, it was agreed. So the quality of the report absolutely was great, And the work which has been done, I have to thank my colleagues here, and it adds value. It gives us value, it gives us what we've got a plan to do here. But thank you very much, Chair.
Based on the... Sorry, go on, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to what Dev was saying, the format and the layout of the report made it very readable and easy to understand, which for myself, who's obviously not an expert, is much appreciated. So yeah, thanks for that.
I think it's more that we note, the recommendation will be more than that we note the report. I think it should be worded that we accept the report, then we note it. Is that a fair statement by my colleagues? Yes, that we accept the report. And we asked Dev to, the Section 151 officer, to every 6 months to bring a report with regards to the financial position of the authority. I don't want to make it too worded, but if you, based on the conversation we've just had between yourself and Matt, that will improve the value for money on the efficiency, the effectiveness and the economy, and it would also give us the assurance we need with regards to moving forward on the value for money. Is that okay, Matt, for you? There's how many Matts around. Is that okay for the note? Are we in agreement? Councillor Hussain. Training, yeah.
For value for money, I mean, is there any way, while you're here, is for us to get value for money in terms of the children's services, residential care, where we are really having local authorities ripped off by equity company who have taken nearly majority of the residential in terms of children's services. And to my mind, we're not getting value for money for that because they are now a monopoly in a sense that they literally control everywhere the children's services residential care.
External auditors, do you want to come back on that question of Councillor Hussain, please?
I mean, it's certainly something we could take away and have a look at as part of the 24-25 work, absolutely. I mean, I think we're always open to sort of guidance from any councillors if there's particular areas of focus you want us to look at. So we can certainly note that one and go. I mean, quite how much we'll be able to dig out, I don't know, but we could certainly do probably some benchmarking around near neighbours and those kind of things. So yeah, we can certainly take that one away.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask Matt to read out the revised recommendation so it's correct for the notes. Is that okay, Matt? Thank you.
Fine, Chair.
Just make sure we're in agreement.
Yeah, just let me know if I've missed anything. So the first recommendation is for the Audit and Governance Committee is asked to accept the report, so I take it that's okay. And the second recommendation is that the Section 15 officer to report, to give 6 monthly reports on the financial position of the council to help improve VFM effectiveness and economy. Is that okay?
Is everybody okay with that? Yeah? Do we want to add training in, or are we going to... Sorry, say that again, Helen?
Chair, we can either add it here or in the next report, because I've got...
Let's add it in. Let's go all in. Let's add it in. Thank you, colleagues. We now move to agenda item 11, which is it's a separate paper that was sent out to everybody, and it's audit findings report for the year ending the 31st of March. Who's going to present that one? Okay, then over to Grant Thornton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess this is the second half of our assurance piece on the 23-24 accounts. So this is our audit findings report, which summarises our work on the accounts. I guess in high-level terms, and again, like Jason, I'll take the detail as read. I think as we trailed previously in previous meetings, we'll be issuing a disclaimed audit opinion because of the challenges that have gone before around opening balances. What we have put in this report is the work that we have been able to do across a wide range of areas, not just those significant risk areas that we touched on in the plan earlier in the year, but I guess key strands of the account. So I think we've, as Dev has trailed earlier, I think it's been a very much a learning experience for both sides this year. I think the relationship has moved on immensely from where we started. And I think I should again put on record the efforts of the finance team. Certainly, I guess as we got into sort of August, September, certainly things have picked up strongly since then, and hopefully put the authority on a good thread moving forward. I think, as ever, I think we've raised quite a large number of recommendations. Some of these were in the previous report, the previous meeting, but they're all back here again for completeness. I think they start on page 37 of the report, and again, Dev and management have provided detailed responses to those, and again, those are things that we will work through with the finance team over the course of the next cycle, and you will get an update of those in the next year's audit findings report to show whether they've been resolved or not, so there's no clear trail of resolution. But yeah, we've got through a good amount of work despite, I guess, the challenges. I guess there are, despite those limitations that we've touched on. I think the key for me is we've built that relationship. We're starting to regain assurance, and I say it will be then for us to move that forward over the next cycle. There's a slight technicality around the actual signing of the documents. So the deadline, the formal deadline for the backstop is the end of February because of the slight delay in the publication of the group accounts, and the consideration of those statutory recommendations at the next council meeting will mean that the backstop opinion will come once those recommendations have been considered, so that'll be about the 18th, 19th of March, so hopefully only a minor delay, but just to that was important to note. But yeah, that was all I wanted to go through in terms of introduction. More than happy to take any questions from members.
Colleagues, any question? Yes, Helen.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. I'm not going to go through all of the detail and highlight, because I think this is the last report we would all like to see with this level of detail and issues in it. So I was really pleased to hear the onwards and upwards kind of tone from both of you, Dev and auditors, because that's where I feel we need to be. So I was, we have to know what these things are in order to improve and build on them for next year. So thank you for highlighting them, and we are all committed to moving this forward so that from 24-25 onwards we do not have a similar report to this one. This is hopefully the last one the residents of Luton will receive in this way.
Dev, do you want to make any comments at all?
Just to say, absolutely, that's, yeah. And again here, all the recommendation from GT, we went through, we discussed, and we agreed. So I think what lifts a lot of weight from my shoulder is we've got a very good working relation. Open, transparent, we can discuss things, we can agree, we can certain things, but we can have that professional discussion. I always respect the opinion of our external auditors, because they've got a wide range of experience with working with so many authorities, and we learn a lot from them, sharing experience. But that open, transparent, and we can have an open discussion, and we can make suggestions, we can make comments, and it's taken on board. Yeah, and that's we are building on. That's give me the reassurance, Chair, that 24-25 will be a good year. Let's put it this way. So. And that's my aim, and we've got the resources, we've got the momentum, and Kanchan does a marvelous job on internal audit, which is part of the assurance. We've got our colleagues and we've got members keeping us very much all the things at training, so I feel good about 24-25. That's what I would say. Chair, thank you.
Any questions? Any comments? Right, if we move to page 1, 11 of 1, The Audit and Governance Committee is asked to note the report. Do we note it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We now move to agenda item 12, which is in the main bundle of your report that came, and that's page 200.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think the reason we wanted to take all the external auditors' reports so that members have the independent view. So when it comes to the accounts, I think you've asked all the questions which is necessary, but still spend some time on this report, yeah? So this is a 23-24 accounts, which is going to be approved by the audit committee. So once it's done, I've signed it, and the chair of the audit committee will sign it. But as our colleagues Matt said, is because of the backstop, the way it works, and our publication of the accounts, and taking the statutory recommendation to the full council on 18th, the earliest, if everything goes according to plan, the accounts will be signed by the auditors with their disclaimer audit opinion on the 19th or 18th in thereabout. So if I take the members, there will be an additional recommendation which Chair you will read at the end of my presentation. So it's to do about the statutory recommendation. So you will see on page 201, when the accounts was brought back in July, I was not comfortable. Yeah, so I knew there was issues, the areas which you have to improve, and you will see on paragraph 6, I said the accounts, there were gaps, didn't give a true and fair view at that time, and I included 4 recommendations that I will carry out a review, look at collection fund, look at all those areas. So all those have been looked at, so that's why we've got the group accounts, and you've got some of the figures which was presented in July have been reinstated. So in terms of the audit opinion, our colleagues from GT have already mentioned that will be a disclaimer audit opinion, and that has been sort of explained. But you will see on the next page, on page 202, what I've said I will commission a sort of validate the collection fund. That was done. So you will see in the accounts there was the adjustment to the collection fund balances. The recommendation 2 was to bring a technical expert to look across the accounts, and that was done as well. And at the same time, I have to be very grateful, Grant Thornton shared their own model of checking consistency of the accounts, and we found that very useful. So we applied this twice at July and found inconsistency, and applied it in when we present the account in January. So we found GT model very sort of useful, and we employ an external consultant to go through the accounts in a fine-tooth comb as well. So that was done. There was areas where we look at reconciliation, balancing, and that's just to reassure members here, rather than doing a closure in March, my team is doing a soft closure in February. Means we are closing the balance sheet in February, do all the control and checks and everything, so that when each March comes, the closures will be much easier. So we've done that as well. And we've managed to recruit a permanent closure accountant, but I'm supporting that closure accountant with 2 additional experienced resources. Yeah. In fact, we've got 3 additional. But as our colleagues from GT said, we've got to make sure we've got a permanent structure, because having agency staff, sometimes the continuity is not there. Yeah. And I was personally involved over the last probably 6 months, every day having a 9 o'clock meeting, half an hour, touch base, supporting, helping, attending meeting with Grant Thornton, anything to be resolved, we did quite. So now I've taken a bit back step now. My team is going to take over now. So we've set that standard, we've set that momentum, we've set that quality, which we built on that. So all the things which you found has been reflected in the accounts which is presented in front of you. And I will just touch on the next page about EY statutory recommendation. So those came in December. There were 4 statutory recommendations based on the second report, which is the accounts 1920 to 2223. But all these recommendations were covered as part of the public interest report. So we've already reported to full council. But because there were new statutory recommendations, we've looked at it. You've got all the response from council. So that is going to the 18th of March full council, just to say we agree on those recommendations, we note on those recommendations. And the main one is about capacity, second one is about training, and the third one is about the draft accounts. So those 3 things which is clearly we have been discussing, and we've come a long way, and we built on that momentum. Then the account itself, you will see, it's explained on page 205, 206, 207. So most of the changes between the July and the December were quite a lot of reclassification. So some debtors, creditors were reclassified. So that takes you in terms of all the details in the accounts. And those changes have been also mentioned in the following pages, where you've got on paragraph 38 talks about major changes on comprehensive spending on the what is called comprehensive income expenditure statement. And you will see the biggest one is in terms of sort of valuation of the assets. And then it takes you quite in detail. And right now you've got the set of the group accounts on page 212. It's explained the movement in reserves. So you will see the main adjustment in the CIS, which is the equivalent, the private sector profit and loss account. But in local government, then some of these accounting adjustments get reversed in MERS. And that's where the main adjustment came through. And the balance sheet itself, you will see on page 216, some of the adjustment in the balance sheet and some of the treatment. We've discussed our auditors about the treatment into the pension. So that was reclassified. And then the cash flow is there. And then the rest of the pages talk about the notes, about the HRA, about the cash flow as well. So those are quite technical detail. But as I said is, when we brought the account in July and the accounts now, it absolutely is a complete now. At that time, as our councillor Helen, not councillor, our colleague Helen said is, sorry, I just said councillor, yeah. So, yeah, it was in a situation we make big improvement, massive improvement on those accounts. And just to give the reassurance I've mentioned to our colleagues is, we've already given a clear, detailed timetable for the airport as well and our subsidiary companies to produce those valuations, because that takes time. And we're talking about the valuation of the airport and deferred taxation, it's hundreds of millions of increase, decrease. So that's we are aiming to have those valuations by 3rd week of May. It will give us 1 week to complete by end of May. And the first 2 weeks of June will be just fine-tuning, checking, consistency and everything. So that's, Chair, I would say is we are in a much better position, yeah, that we were in July, and we keep that momentum to, as we say, 24, 25 accounts to be much sort of quality, the timeliness and accuracy.
Thank you, Dev. Any questions of our Section 151 officer? Councillor Underwood?
Just a comment, Chair. Talking about training, paragraph 20, the last sentence says officers are preparing a comprehensive training programme to start in the new municipal year.
That's why I knew I put the municipal year somewhere. I don't know whether December, I was thinking probably Christmas already, but it's a bit too early.
Councillor Hussain?
Just a comment that thanking Dev and his team, particularly Dev, for working so hard and getting these accounts and over the number of years with having the shortage of staff and agency staff that he's managed to survive. And thank you very much. And thanks for that.
Thank you. Helen, did you have a question?
Yeah, I've just got two minor ones. I think it's a really helpful update. Thank you, Dev. And I think we've had a lot of the conversation already on some of the other bits. In terms of when we get to the recommendations, there are just two areas I didn't quite agree with, which is, and it's just my view, I'm not sure that paragraph 17, the answer to recommendation 2 by EY, fully captures what the recommendation is. And I just ask you to just look at it with fresh eyes. That's all, just from my perspective. And then the other part was, I did pick up in the GT report about suggesting 2 amendments to the AGS, and I just wanted to check, are they still going to be, is the AGS still going to be updated before it's signed off?
I think that's how I would be guided by my colleagues from GT, because my understanding is the AGS is mainly as that particular point in time. So it was 23-24, it will March 2024, and I don't think they just take into account any post-balance sheet events. So if there's post-balance sheet event, significant material, that will be reflected in the accounts. But in the AGS, I don't know whether I can change, because we are working on the 24-25 AGS, not on the 23-24. So I'll just guide that with my colleagues here. If there's anything, we still have got a little bit of time to update that.
Yeah, I'll take that one away. I will double check that one. I'll come back to you on that one, certainly.
My understanding was that the AGS stays live until the date of signing the accounts. If it's changed, I'm very happy with that. But I thought that the AGS should reflect some of those wider discussions on the effectiveness about the, you know, finally signing off the old set of accounts and the public interest report. I wouldn't be suggesting that it goes to town, but I did think it was omitting that little bit of detail. But if, you know, if it's not until the date that it's signed, I'm happy to be corrected.
No, it's fine. I'll certainly double check and make sure that's where it needs to be, certainly.
Thanks for asking the question. Let's just get it right one time. I don't need to go to full council again and again and again. Thank you. Any more questions, colleagues? Right, so if we go to the front, that was page 200. And there is some changes to the recommendations. So I'm going to read them out first, and so that we're clear. So the recommendations is the committee is recommended to 1, to approve the final audited statement of account 2023-24, subject to any material changes being required by the auditors. 2, to authorise the chair of the committee to sign the final unaudited statement of accounts for 23-24, subject to any material changes being required by the auditors. 3, to consider the findings of the audit findings report and make any recommendations that the committee feels are appropriate. 4, which is the new bit now I'm going to read, to consider the progress made on EY recommendations. 5 is to note that the auditors intend to issue a disclaimer of opinion. 6, to consider the progress made on EY statutory recommendations. And then there's a new 7, the council response to EY recommendations to be reported to full council on the 18th of March 2025. So a paper I will present at full council.
Yeah.
So noted and so agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah? Excellent. Thank you, colleagues. Okay, so we now move to item 13, Audit and Governance Committee Draft Work Programme, which is on page 226 to 227. That should be at the back, and that's the agenda, I think, for next week. That's for next week, and I've got the papers already, so hopefully everybody's got the papers for... Hopefully everybody has got the papers. We're not waiting for Royal Mail to deliver. Okay, on that note, we have come to the end of the agenda. Thank you for your presence and time and contribution. Have a safe journey on. Thank you.